music that is unusual in candor and asks that you find a breathing pattern that matches it. But because it's unusual in its candor, it's 1, 2, 3 strong breaths in, and then 5 breaths out. Not what you think you do. Often what you do when you sleep, but not what you think you do. You think you go...
Like if this was like on a spaceship, you would think it would like that. Look at that. If that was on a spaceship, etched into the side of the spaceship, you'd be like, holy shit, it's a fucking alien language. Look, I mean, I don't know what any of those things are. I don't know what one of those numbers is. I don't know what the fuck those words are, those letters. That's an alien language. That's, to me, almost more alien than a lot of Asian languages. That looks crazy.
Well, that's a reason to kind of doubt that somebody's translating it right. You know, like...
isn't exactly what we meant. We mean the things that you are doing all day, every day, that are affecting your vibration the majority of the time, are the things that are going on in your mind. It's the things that you're thinking about. It's the things you're pondering. It's the beliefs you hold. A belief is just a thought you keep thinking. So what you're wanting to do is change your beliefs, train your beliefs. But here's the thing, that this getting into the vortex conversation is really wanting to impart to you in a way that you've never heard it before. Don't try to change your thinking from outside the vortex. It will only backlash and make you dig in more. To change your thinking, you've got to be up to speed with who you are. So what does that mean? Meditate, quiet your mind. When you quiet your mind, you'll stop thought. When you stop thought, you'll stop resistance. When you stop resistance, your vibration will raise. When you run, when you take walks, when you get out in nature, when you interact with those who you really love, when you make long lists of things that you appreciate, when you get on rampages of appreciation.
just take one cap, just something light. You'll feel good. The mushrooms want you to like them. And so the first time you do it, they're going to welcome you. They're going to be like, oh man, this is what you should be doing. You're going to straighten out all your personal problems, all these little weird personality tics that you got, all this strange shit, trouble you keep getting yourself into.
I fucking do too.
We'll help you. The mushrooms are going to talk to you. We'll help you. And then one day they're going to trick you into taking a large dose, and then you meet the aliens. And you're going to realize that this dimension that we live in is connected to neighboring dimensions that are accessible through certain psychedelics. And then once you see that, you can never unsee it. It's regular life loses its seriousness. It loses like 20% of its seriousness. It's still serious, still regular life, but 20% of it goes away forever, because you know that that's possible. You know that these other worlds exist, and that other people are just out there running through their entire life from birth to death, and they never experience those worlds. And that's weird. You know, Terence McKenna and Dennis McKenna and all the various psychedelic wizards that are out there that have been sort of expressing that there's a whole world out there that you're not seeing. It's like we're living life inside this very strange tent, this very thin membrane tent. And if you just unzip that tent and step out, the entire wilderness of the universe exists. But most people live their life inside this very thin walled tent, and they think that tent sort of defines the actual universe itself, when it's so small and so limited.
Is there a chance that you open that tent and you don't like what you see and now you fucked your whole life up? Because I think that's most people's apprehension about doing that. Like,
specifically,
can you not come back?
Yes, even if you don't have schizophrenia or a mental disorder, you might have a view of the world that's untenable with the experience that you have under the influence of psychedelics. But that might mean that your view of the world is bullshit. One of the things that I've found with these psychedelic experiences, it really makes ideologies seem, if not preposterous, at the very least insignificant in comparison to human experiences.
Absolutely.
The experience of camaraderie and friendship and love. You realize, like, oh, this is what's important. This is what it's really about. Yes, not enforcing your ideas or pushing them on other people and forcing people to behave the way you behave, but instead, love. Okay, so what you're saying is essentially that they're using psychedelic drugs to communicate with interdimensional beings. All right.
Yeah, spirit guys.
Okay, everyone who's done a high dose of psychedelic drugs has had this experience. So everyone who's listening to you right now, who's done DMT or done 5 grams of psilocybin, they know that this is you have some kind of communication with something else. The question is that something else inside your psyche, or is that something else a chemical doorway? Is there a chemical doorway inside the mind that opens up, and the belief is that when you die, and this is what the afterlife is, that when you die, your brain produces these chemicals. These chemicals open up this doorway, and this is the portal to the next dimension. So you're saying that the government is aware of this, and they must be aware of this. They've heard enough people talk about it. They must have done experiments on it.
What do scientists do? They want to know the secrets of the universe.
For sure. And people that have the courage to experiment with these things and try them themselves realize that this is such a profound experience that it's so alien that if an alien landed right now in our parking lot and a little gray man with big black eyes got out, it would be nothing compared to what I've seen on psychedelic trip. Have you personally had any experience with interdimensional beings?
Well, because it's all taboo and people...
Well, let me tell you, I have. 100%.
Tell us about it.
Doing DMT. I've 100% communicated with something. The question is whether that something was actually in my imagination or in my mind, or that something was something that takes place in another dimension. I don't know. I can't be sure. There's no way to put it on a scale. There's no way to run it through a test. But what I do know is that it's the same experience.
I can be sure.
Okay.
I mentioned Eric Muller, who you know, Mancal Muller. So he went down to a couple places in Central and South America and did it twice. Both times it was 30 to 40 people in the group. And he said, we're sitting there and we take the ayahuasca, and then all these basically elves, aliens, come out of the woods, and we're all seeing the same aliens, we're all hearing the same thing, and it's like 43 of us or whatever seeing it. And he goes, but it was the drug's effect on our brains. No, a drug, everyone sees something different. If everybody gets drugged, we all think about what happened to us in high school or college, or what's good or what's bad. We all have different experiences. When you're taking an hallucinogen and suddenly you're all crazy.
Yeah.
Because a lot of schizophrenic people just see more, and then they see everything. It doesn't mean they're right. It just means that the filter is off.
Well, I always said, like, you ever run your hand over an insect that can't see? They have no idea you're there. They're like certain insects that just don't see anything, whether it's a centipede or whatever. DMT, which is what ayahuasca brings up.
Right.
That's what it's the active ingredient. You're still you. You're not drunk. That's what's weird about it. Well, I don't know what it is, but if you wanted to get real woo-woo, you would call it some sort of a chemical gateway into another dimension or to another realm that you can't access without it. It doesn't seem like a drug.
But how is it not any different than I got stoned and I saw crazy shit?
Well, first of all, it's endogenous, right? So your brain actually has this chemical inside of it. It's one of the more interesting things about this drug is that your body knows how to process it so well. Like if you do coke, right? Like I'm sure you're coked up for a long time, right? Your body's all fucked up for a long time. Dimethyltryptamine only lasts like 15 minutes.
What?
Yeah, your body recognizes what it is, so it brings you back to baseline very, very quickly.
Really? So if you do this,
yeah,
it's a 15-minute experience?
Yeah.
What did you have you ever had any awakening or vision or?
I've had a lot of visions on dimethyltryptamine. Yeah.
Anything that you once you got once you were done tripping, that didn't seem like the ramblings of a madman, or was it something you were like, oh wow, I had a revelation?
It's hard to say. They all seem impossible to describe to anybody else, other than people that have experienced it. But what it does make you realize is that how the thing that I always felt when I came back is like, how is this possible that you could go to a place like this where you could see something that's way more vivid and way more powerful than regular life? Like whatever it is, it's not like it's dull and confusing and you feel drugged and you feel less. You feel more. You see more. It's more vibrant. It's more powerful. And whatever is over there seems to know you. It seems to understand. It seems to be you're communicating with something that's far more intelligent than you, far more advanced, and not hindered by all of the things that we're hindered by, like our egos and our nonsense and our insecurities and our civilization and culture. It's like it's some sort of other kind of consciousness, and it's they joke about things. They make fun of you. Like one time I did it, and all these jesters, like this, like a geometric pattern of gestures, like a fractal, like infinite gestures, were giving me the finger like this, fuck you, like mocking me. And the message that I got was that I was taking myself too seriously. Like maybe even like while like my intentions going into the trip, I was taking myself too seriously.
Wow.
And I remember relaxing, going, oh, okay. And they're like, that's right. Like they're nodding their head. Like, yes. Like it was a message. Like, hey, stupid. You take yourself too seriously. Fuck you.
Fuck you. I like
and it was
fuck you.
Gestures, like with a hat and everything.
So in your life now, like let's say you are stressing out about something as very seriously, you do the fractal gestures. Do you remember them? And go, oh yeah, I had this.
Very, very.
But you know what I mean? Like you bring something back that you can practically use in your this dimension, this time.
Humility. There's a humility that comes from real psychedelic experiences that you just because you know that they are possible, it makes you second guess the significance of regular existence. Because it seems like whatever that might be where you go when you die.
Okay. I was waiting for the. I was waiting for the moment. I was waiting for the moment. So
I don't know if that's what it is. 5-MeO DMT does not strike me as something that you'd want to do a lot. It's so terrifying. That's probably the most terrifying experience I've ever had on psychedelics, because I ceased to exist. Like, it's the one drug where I feel like when I took it, I wasn't there anymore. I was gone until I came back. Like, I felt like I didn't have thoughts. I didn't have. I knew I was experiencing the 5-MeO DMT realm or whatever it was, but I didn't. There was no context in terms of. I didn't realize I'm on my couch sitting at home. Like, I was gone. There's no visuals. It was just this white, sort of pixelated, like grayish white, gone world, you know. And it was terrifying because it felt like death. It was the one thing that felt the most like, oh my God, like now I'm not here anymore. But coming back from it, I think it was very valuable. Like, as I was returning, I remember thinking so much about the bullshit way in which I talk. I remember thinking that, like, God, like so much of the way I would communicate was not just me trying to get my thoughts across, but me trying to say things in a way that would be impressive, or in a way that would be flowery, or, you know, try to make it look like I was more intelligent than I was, or whatever. But I remember, like, remembering that, like, really clearly, like, wow, I gotta clean up the way I talk. So I'm full of shit. Like, thinking that as I was trying to figure out how I was going to describe this experience, I was realizing as I was thinking, like, God, I got to figure out how to describe this. Like, boy, I talk like I'm full of shit. like, so there was value in that. But I did it a few times. I think I did it 3 times. But it was terrifying every time. Terrifying. Like, while you're gone, like, while you slip away, I remember just thinking, like, whoa, this is not good. This is not good. Like, you feel like, oh my God, I fucked up. Like, I really died. Or I really stopped being here. And it also makes you think, like, maybe this is going to the light. Maybe this is what they talk about when they talk about going to the light when you die. Like, maybe you're having this kind of experience, because it's really disturbing. But then pretty peaceful when it's over. Like, I felt pretty good when I came back. But the concept of giving away all of my control of reality like that, for some reason, DMT doesn't scare me as much.
Yeah, I think that it defies description in a different way than other psychedelic experiences do. With something like DMT, it's difficult to describe because there is such an abundance of imagery and thoughts and associations that it's extremely difficult to communicate that to someone. With 5-MeO DMT, there's nothing. And that's also difficult to communicate. That white out, and there's an absence of everything completely.
Yeah. Do you find it terrifying?
I have found it terrifying, yes. It's very, I had a very profound experience with it in 2017, and I have no real desire to use it again.
Yeah, that's my thought too. It's like, I'm not going back there. I'll go back to DMT. I'll go back to that.
Oh, me too, because it's just a different drug entirely.
I think it is a spiritual thing. I think it's an undeniably spiritual thing. That's the thing about it. It's like it forces you to think about love and connection and the bonds that people have with each other in a way that you don't get from anything else. The powerful experience of a transcendent psychedelic moment is it's not like anything else you experience in life, other than maybe like a near-death experience. But you could argue that they're the same thing. I know people that have had near-death experiences that swear that it was like a DMT trip. It's good that you can grasp that and have that experience and learn from it, because a lot of people can't, and that's when they have bad trips, because they try to fight it and they try to resist. No, I'm not fighting anything, and then all of a sudden you're in this fucking death spiral.
That was my mistake with shrooms. I should have had one little shroom.
That's a good way to start.
Yeah.
A good way to start is like one, and you get like a little feeling, maybe like a duogram. You know, nothing crazy. Yeah. Before you want to get into like the 3 to 5 gram, like yikes. It's very bizarre that it's so there. It's so easy to get to. It's just 15 seconds away. It's one of the most insane experiences that a human being could possibly encounter.
Yeah.
If there was a thing that you could, like a ride at Disneyland, it would be a mile long line to get into that fucking thing.
Right.
Everybody would be like, oh, I want to go on that ride.
Right.
Because it's so fucking crazy. The problem with the term drug is it's a blanket term that you could use for caffeine, you use for nicotine, you use for alcohol.
Chocolate.
Yeah, there's a lot of drugs.
Yeah.
Adrenaline's a drug.
And while I'm sure it's possible, I can't imagine after now doing DMT twice, I can't imagine someone becoming like addicted to it.
Oh, I wouldn't know about that. I know a guy who was a tattoo artist that was doing DMT every fucking day, multiple times a day. And then finally the entities had to sit him down and go, hey, motherfucker, stop. Like, you're going to lose your grip on this world.
Wow.
Yeah, they literally told him to stop doing it, he said.
One of the people I did DMT with wasn't told to like not do DMT anymore by the elves, but was told like, you don't have to come back anymore. Almost in a gentle way. Like, we came out of our trips and the friend was like, they told me I don't have to come back anymore. I'm like, how many times have you done it? He's like, 9. I'm like, maybe take a break then.
I've done it 9. I've done it more than 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I haven't done it in a couple of years though, so maybe I could get back in there and have a conversation. But like I said, the last time that I did it was probably the most intense and the most weird, because when they were giving me the finger. But it was like, I've never but it's just, I think sometimes what people do, and what I've certainly done, is you protect yourself from criticism, or you protect yourself from your own analysis of your correct and incorrect thoughts and actions by bullshitting yourself. And one of the ways that you realize if you're bullshitting yourself is like, how do you react to satire? How do you react to being mocked? How do you react to people not taking you seriously? Do you go, that's their prerogative, good luck? Or do you go, fuck them, I'm gonna fucking make a response video. Whoa.
Right.
And the aliens, or the whatever they were, the jesters, and they all had the little bells, the little hats with the bells.
It's so crazy. They look like little courtyard. It's nuts.
But they were going like this, fuck you, and they were like hilarious. Openly mocking me. And my initial response was, hey. And then I realized and they were like, that's it, you got it. I was like,
they're kind of sarcastic.
Oh yeah. Well, they know your bullshit. They know all of your nonsense. They know all of your thoughts. They know, whatever the fuck they are, whether they're a part of your consciousness or whether these are intelligent entities in another dimension that you're interacting with.
See, that is what I've been questioning since doing this. So I was told by a friend who's done DMT a lot that after you do DMT, pay attention to the real world, and if you believe that the elves are real beings that are independent of something created in your own brain due to the DMT, they'll like send you a sign, right? And I was like, again, crackhead shit. No, I'm not gonna meet the elves in real life, right? So one of the things in my first trip that they kept telling me was, this is not the end. This is not the end. They kept telling me that because I think I was asking them, like, is this what happens when you die? Like, what is this? They said the phrase, this is not the end, multiple times. Directly after the trip, we go to a restaurant. And I wasn't liking the energy. Like, there's like a glow after you do DMT that you kind of want to maintain. And I didn't like the energy in the first restaurant, so I was like, let's leave. Went to another restaurant.
What was wrong with the energy?
The people were just weird. I don't know. It's like you create like a bubble when you do it with like friends, and you're like, I don't like what they might do to our bubble. So then we go to another restaurant, and there's a huge sign that just says, this is not the end, on the thing. And I'm like, whoa, what? And then I looked at my friend who told me to look for signs, and he's like, told ya.
Whoa. When everybody does it, what you get when they're describing it is just sort of like trying to use words to describe something where there's no references. It's not, the words don't work. You could kind of tell me what it was like, and I could kind of go, yeah, okay, I kind of see that because I've done it. But if I hadn't done it, there's no way. I have nothing. First time I did it, only took one, and I just got to the door. I got like to the door of the DMT dimension. I was like, what is this? This is weird. It was really weird, but I didn't even know what weird was, because like 20 minutes later, I did a second one. And the second one, I took way more. I took like 3 big hits, and then it was almost like you're in a slingshot or a catapult. It was like you could feel the tension, like tick, 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 and all of a sudden, you shot through these colors and lights into like what felt like some new place.
What is your physical doing during all of this?
Just laying there. Yeah. One time recently I did it, like the last time I did it was like a couple years ago. I opened my eyes in the middle of it. It was very strange. It's like I can almost see reality, but it was all real pixelated, and it was like I was seeing life through like closed my eyes back and I went. It's the experience of the psychedelic realm is more vivid than regular life, which is real strange because it doesn't feel like you're on a drug. Because you're still you. That's another part of it. It doesn't change your, like when you're drunk, it changes the way you think. Like you think different. This is not that. This is like you think the same way, but you're being confronted with something that's insanely alien. Just alien to everything that you know to be true. And then there's all these things around you that seem to be alive. And they seem to be talking to you and communicating with you. The last time I did it was a bunch of jokers that were giving me the finger. Like jesters. Jesters with like, you know, they have the little bells.
Yeah.
They were all like shaking and giving me the finger and like spinning around like going, fuck you. They were mocking me. And the thing that I got from it was like, oh, I take myself too seriously. I need to be mocked. And they were mocking me. And as they were mocking me, I relaxed. And then they like pointed at me like, you get it.
Yeah.
You get it. Because you can get lost. You can take yourself seriously and you want others to take you. Like, what is the grossest kind of man? Like the kind of man who wants everyone to tremble when he walks into a room, wants, rose petals thrown at his feet. He wants everyone to call him sir.
And be uncomfortable.
Yeah, everyone wants to be uncomfortable because he's a fucking man. Yeah. And that kind of guy responds very poorly to being mocked, right? So I think that it was like letting me know, like, hey, bitch, you got a little of that in you. You need to get that out of your system.
Palliative.
Profound alleviation of anxiety.
There you go.
Because it transforms your perception of where you stand in the world, and it's an absolute ego dissolver. You are confronted with experiences that defy logic. And one of the things that this is interesting. One of the things that shied me away from UFOs was DMT. Because it was so profound. It was so crazy that if a UFO landed right in front of my house, I'd be like, yeah, it's not DMT though. Because DMT was a completely different dimension, and there were things there. Now, I don't know what these things are, but they seem to be communicating with you, and they seem to be talking to you, and they seem to know everything about you. So the question is, like, is that really your subconscious? Is this what you know about yourself stripped down to some very bare, raw form, and then confronted with these psychedelics that perturb your visual cortex, so they provide you with all these intense visualizations? Or is it a chemical portal to another dimension?
Were they effulgent beings, light beings?
The way I describe them is they're complex geometric patterns made out of love and understanding, and that they're communicating with. That's very similar to what it feels like when you do dimethyltryptamine. And Alex has had uncountable
just if
number
I
of
dropped a little purple barrel right now and just looked at that, I'd have a nice afternoon.
Exactly.
Yeah. Nice.
Well, a lot of the most profound psychedelic experiences are the compounds. They mimic normal human neurochemistry. Dimethyltryptamine is it's a natural occurring compound in the human brain. It's produced by your liver, your lungs, and there's a lot of evidence, at least in mammals, it's produced by your pineal gland, which is literally your third eye.
You didn't have enough.
That's what I was just going to tell you.
Really?
Yeah, because you only took one hit. You usually take three. You take three, and the rocket ride leads you somewhere. It takes you to the center of the
take
universe.
three in a row.
Take
At the
a
same
big
time.
one, blow it out. Take a big one, blow it out. Take a big one, and as you're taking the third one, you're already seeing the world crystallize in front of you. It already starts turning into geometric patterns. You put the pipe down, lay back in the chair, and you just shoot off to the center of the universe. The terrifying thing is you cease to exist. It's the one drug that I've ever taken where you're not there anymore.
No.
Even NN dimethyltryptamine, which is the difference between 5-methoxy-dimethyltryptamine is just an oxygen molecule attached to it. But NN dimethyltryptamine is incredibly visually stimulating. The 5-methoxy is not.
Yeah.
It's just white. Post-trip, I'd hit a tape recorder right when I became conscious again and start talking about the experience. And what I remember saying about the 5-methoxy DMT experience is like, as I'm trying to recount what happened, I feel my ego trying to retake hold of the situation and even use words in a way that might impress you with my ability to describe things, or as a professional comedian too, I was aware that like a lot of what you're doing, you're saying things in a way that's pleasing to people so that they get excited about hearing you talk. And I was very aware of that while I was doing that. I'm saying I'm trying to explain things that are not possible to explain, because the words that we're using were all invented for a world that doesn't exist in the DMT dimension. And so once you break through, it is so profoundly alien that any words...
And liberating?
Yes. Yeah. Well, in a way, I mean, it may be really, truly realized that we are in a soup of atoms, and that it's not... there's not like Michael Pollan, Joe Rogan, and Jamie Vernon in a room. Here's a wood table. There's oxygen between us. No, we're in a universal stew of particles. And it breaks those particles down, or at least it gives you a view into that, and you cease to exist, which is the most bizarre thing, because it's so similar to N,N-dimethyltryptamine chemically, but so different in the fact that you're not there while you're doing regular like N,N-dimethyltryptamine, which is the active ingredient in ayahuasca. Have you done that, the pure version of it?
No, not the pure version.
The pure version is like a very short, much more intense ayahuasca experience. I've never done ayahuasca. I've only done the DMT version. But by
injection or
no, smoking it. But what you get out of it is you're there while this is happening, and you're just blown away. And you're like, I can't believe what I'm seeing.
You're present.
But there's all these entities that are trying to calm you down. Relax, take it in, settle down. They're all trying to calm you down and alleviate. Yeah, it's weird, and they're also fucking with you, like they give you the finger. Like I had a bunch of jokers that were like dancing around me, giving me the finger.
Did you have machine elves too?
I don't believe in that thing. I don't know what that is. Like McKenna had those experiences of machine elves. I saw it, what I described as complex geometric patterns that are made out of love and understanding. They seem to me to be like the building blocks of the soul all around you all the time.
Wow.
Like some just gigantic, impossibly large, infinite well of souls. Just these things dancing around you, and they were never one thing. They would be one thing for a second, and they change into something else, and then they change into something different. And the more profound the experiences got, the more profound the next one would be. And they kept saying, like, look at this. Like, but the words weren't real words. That's the other thing. It's like I'm saying the words, look at this. And I would have that in my head, but I never heard anybody say it. It was almost like it was triggering the concept of those words in my mind.
Right.
I got a buddy of mine who's a world champion kickboxer, Iman Mendoza's, and he fights on it. Fights high on mushrooms.
Do they test for it, or it's just
nope? That's funny. Fucking people up while he's on mushrooms.
That's great.
And I mean, better than he's ever looked in his past. He said he could see things coming before they happen.
Yep.
He said he literally feels like he's got some sort of psychic ability when he's sparring. Like he sees what guys are doing, and if you watch him fight, he just looks way sharper than he's ever looked before.
Yeah.
And homeboy's doing mushrooms. I know the John Hopkins study on psilocybin has shown some pretty incredible benefits, and there's a lot of people now that are starting to look to it for treatment for people with PTSD or addiction issues.
One of them that came out of Johns Hopkins for breaking tobacco addiction. 15 patients, small clinical study, statistically significant. 10 out of 15 people, after 1 or 2 heroic doses of psilocybin, 12 months later, had not smoked a cigarette.
Wow.
So, I mean, to break tobacco addiction, which is one of the most addictive substances on this planet, is phenomenal.
That's incredible. I also think it's a significant solution to this problem that we're facing with pills and a lot of destructive drugs. Yeah. There's a lot of self-destructive drugs that people are taking because these people are hurting. What psilocybin gives you that these drugs don't, it gives you a potential to heal. It gives you a moment to reflect. It gives you a change in the way you think and you interface with the world. And that doesn't exist in those other drugs. Those drugs are escape drugs. And the need to escape is what we got to eliminate. And I think that's one of the things that psilocybin can help. It can help alleviate the need to escape.
I guess what I want to know about is, like, because I'm, obviously a person in recovery. I don't drink, I don't take drugs, haven't done for a long time, and I recognise for certain people that they can't do it safely. psychedelics and hallucinogens seem to me exist in a realm outside of that, because they're not pleasure seeking. They're like, seem to me like it's a spiritual portal. And when I listen to, say, Terence McKenna talking about his experiences in psychedelia at such length and with such lucidity and with so many philosophical connotations, and the way that he uses the information he's getting from hallucinogenic experiences to speculate on how we should organise society, what the implications are for freedom, his refusal to accept that there are certain kind of experiences that should be prohibited, that it's ridiculous that adults should be prevented from having that. I'm fascinated.
DMT is interesting in that, first of all, it's very quick. The experience is only about 15 minutes, 20 minutes max. And it's not necessary, it's not an intoxicant in the way that you would think about traditionally. You are still you in the face of this experience. And I think it's some sort of a chemical gateway. That's what I think. I think there's a gateway in your mind that can lead to some other dimension that's probably there all the time.
If there is a omnipresent, continually existing realm that human beings aren't accessing because of the particular biochemical formulation of consciousness as it is in this point in our evolution, and that we can get there, and it seems as like, I've heard Terence McKenna say it's more real. It's more real. There's stuff in there.
Yes.
And when he talks about them beings, like that he describes as self-dribbling basketballs, creating like Fabergé egg, devices through vibration, and they're telling you to do it.
I never saw that.
I want
He's
that.
called them machine elves. He's called them all sorts of different things. The way I've described them is they're the geometric patterns made out of love and understanding. That's what they seem like.
So you can look at a geometrical pattern and read meaning into it. It had an emotional quality.
They're made out of something, and they move, they change. Like, they don't stay what they are. They're constantly evolving in front of you into something more and more beautiful. It's very weird.
What did it make you feel?
Like I knew nothing. That was the most profound aspect. Like, all of this stuff that you concentrate on every day is nonsense. And there is some other thing that's connected that's probably influencing this world.
Yeah.
And it's probably what people see when they have near-death experiences, the depictions of the afterlife. I mean, it's probably what it all is.
And religious experiences.
Yeah.
When prophets are talking about, oh my God, I went into this realm, there's these beings, they've told me we're all one, we have to love each other.
Scholars in Jerusalem are connecting Moses' experience with the burning bush to the acacia tree. The acacia tree, which is rich in DMT. The burning bush is what God was to Moses. And that through this burning bush, he came out with these 10 commandments of how people should live their lives. I mean, that easily could have been just a very convoluted sort of translation of a DMT trip.
Certainly. And also, when you think of, certainly there are archetypal images that seem to be repeated throughout ancient cultures and archaic stories that seem to refer to the potential for plant experiences to affect consciousness. Even the Garden of Eden, do not eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge, otherwise you will become as gods. I sense that. Now, if there is some realm that we can reach through that experience that puts into perspective everything that else we experience on the material realm, and that thing seems to, in your words, be emanating love and understanding while ever-changing, completely formless, and communicating love and understanding, I can't help but think that should become our priority, to have a relationship with that realm and to bring about that experience. I don't even mean in a literal way, because even Terence McKenna said there are some people, vulnerable souls, he was probably referring to people like me, that probably shouldn't mess around with that kind of stuff.
I think he was really talking about people with schizophrenia. Right. People need to understand that there's a lot of this squirreling away resources and money and things and trying to climb that corporate ladder. This is a finite life. It doesn't last that long. It's a trick. You get sucked into this trick, and this trick is what every CEO and every head of every corporation, every chief financial officer, all these people that are just trying to improve the bottom line, rake in more money, keep this company growing and keep kicking ass. It's a trick. You're sucked up in a trick. There's a natural human tendency to accumulate numbers for whatever reason. Go back to our early days when resources were scarce. And if you get sucked into that trick, one day you're going to wake up, and that's going to usually be too late. Usually it's on your deathbed. Usually it's close to it. You're like, what did I do? This is it? My health is failing, my life's falling apart, and what has my life been? It's been 10, 12, 14 hours a day in these stuffed offices under fluorescent lights, crunching numbers and trying to acquire things, and for what? Like, what impact have I made on humans? What is the negative impact of my ambition on the people that are around me? Like, all this is like, the one thing that psilocybin and particularly just psychedelics in general can provide is a break from patterns, a stopping, a ceasefire of all the momentum of our culture, civilization, finances, taxes, credit card debt, all that shit just stops. And you get a chance to step back and look at the machine, watch it all whirl and spin in front of you, and you get to say, oh, I got sucked into the trick. I'm sucked into a trick.
vehicle is words, I don't really believe anything I say, because the nature of my work concerns the spaces between the words rather than the words themselves. For I'm dealing with an area, a realm of human existence that is basically not conceptual. And I'm faced with the predicament of trying to convey a non-conceptual realm through concept. So I must ask you at the outset to take my words with a grain of salt. In order to understand the stages of life and ultimately the process of dying, get to the point where you begin to hear what I'm talking about, and you begin to see, wow, far out, that's all that happens when you die. So as you're dying this time, instead of doctor, doctor, you say, wow, this is going to be great. Here we go. Ready? Put on your safety belt. Here I go. Ready or not? Oh. Now you're dead. Somebody says hello, and you say hi. Now you're in a new predicament. You're still somebody. You're not nobody yet. You haven't finished your rounds of birth and death. So you're going to take another incarnation. Because you've got more stuff to do. You've got to go through more experiences. So you have a list of things you've got to go through, see. You say, gee, if I did it right, I could clean up all of these in one birth. Let's see. If I took birth as a child in the poorest so soon, right. Well, that cleaned up all those 5 now. Is that too gross for you? From where I'm sitting, I've got to up-level it just one bit by just saying to you that the reality... Sitting down quietly and learning how to quiet their mind by allowing the thoughts to come and go. Just as simple a thing as following your breath. Just take 2 minutes now. Bring your awareness to your breath. Just notice the breath. Either notice it going in and out of your nose, or notice it rising and falling in the middle of your abdomen. Pick one or the other and stay with it. Notice the breath going in. Notice the breath going out. in your body, notice them, and then let them go. If you are thinking about what this is all about, notice that thought, let it go. Come back to your breath. Breathing in, breathing out.
think the daydreaming, there's just something that rings true with that.
Esther discovered it. It's interesting because we've been talking about processes. We've been helping her clean up her vibration. She's living an extraordinary life experience. You are too. But one day, she'd been with a friend quite a bit, and they were doing focus wheels together. It got to be quite a grind. So Esther is sitting by herself one morning, doing a focus wheel about something that she'd been working on, something that she was wanting to clean up. And she just grew weary of it. She knew she was efforting, and she knew she wasn't feeling better. In fact, at the end of the process, she felt worse than the beginning of the process. That's a sign that it's not the right process for right now. And so she just put her pen down on her page, and she breathed and thought about what she was asking for, and thought about what she'd written in the center of the circle, what it was she really wanted. And she said to herself, if I could have everything I want about that, what would it be? And just that statement sort of opened a door for her. It was the least resistance she'd had in this day, at least. And then the next thought was, oh, no, since I can have it the way I want it, not if, since I can have it, what do I want? And she had this feeling of starting completely over. It was like none of the current elements were in the mix. In places that you don't want to be. And so it's easy for you to hear it when we offer it to you like this, because you know you've been trapped in conversations with people that are complaining and that are introducing resistance into the equation until you are too. You know what we're talking about. But you know, it's not just you standing in a non-resistant place and somebody else standing in a resistant place. This is the same story as your desires and your beliefs. You are having the battle within yourself all the time. It's not even about other people. You wouldn't be in a place with others who are giving that to you if you didn't have that battle going on within yourself. And you know what the battle is? Gotta be nice, gotta play along, don't want to stand out, don't want to look too Pollyanna, don't want to think too many pure positive thoughts, don't want to seem uninvolved, don't want to seem misinformed, don't want to seem like I don't care. And we say, we think what you want is true compassion. We think what you want is to tune into Source, to become a perfect blending with Source energy and look at them with the wholeness of who you are and uplift them. We think that. Gotta segment and tend. You gotta get out ahead of the meeting. You gotta be ready for the meeting vibrationally. And oh, it's so fun. It's so fun. It's so fun just to notice how much better it gets, how much better you feel, how much more power you have. Are you afraid of your point of attraction? We're asking you, are you? Are you afraid you'll stand out too much? Prosperity is gonna be yours. Can you deal with it? And everybody in the world isn't going to be prosperous like you are. You are. You going to be all right with that? Or are you going to make stuff up? Oh, I was just lucky. Or, oh, I suffered and struggled for a really long time before my goodness came. Or are you going to accept it and embrace it and acknowledge it and then tell them where it came from? Yeah, I discovered the power of non-resistant thought. What do you mean? I just started reaching for thoughts that felt better until I just sort of got hooked on them. And then I did something really powerful. I quieted my mind completely. It's the only way I could really stop the resistance. And then when the new thoughts started coming, they were pure and they were powerful and they were love and they were clarity and they were impulse. And then ideas started to flow and timing started to happen. I started being in the right place at the right time. You ready to deal with that? People aren't gonna like you much. You're gonna stick out. You're gonna look weird. You're going to thrive in a world that might not everybody be. You're gonna be happy in a world that is so full of hatred and complaint that you're gonna look like you're from another planet. What's wrong with that person? They must have something wrong with them. You are pure positive energy beings who came forth into these physical bodies under what you knew were idyllic situations and conditions. You knew that your environment would inspire you to personal new intentions. And you knew that the energy that creates worlds would back you up.
living consciously in the hologram. Beloved ones, everything in the universe is conscious. Everything is alive to love. Everything is available to know deeply, and everything is awake within your heart. So as you go forth each day, live each moment with heart open and invite all of life into communion with you, that you might experience deeply the love that you are and the wonderful relationship that you share with the whole. Every bright, amazing quark of energy is fully alive, a quantum field of love. And you, with your amazing heart shining radiant, present, you are the miracle within which is all moving. You are the awareness of God. For everything I am, you are. This you know already, but so much of this is forgotten through the mind, through the dream of being a separated self. It is time to invite the holographic presence, time to experience the miracle that you are. Time to be alive to the wonderful communion that is the whole of life alive within. It is time to be awake to the presence of God I am, the whole of which is in all things. So, beloved ones, let me take your hand and lead you into the miracle of a life fully awake, into the wonder of deep communication with all that is, into the experience of loving life, of consciously entering into the dance, becoming the prayer of gratitude for love.
With all that you love, you have barely begun. Often you see love through the eyes of the ego. But if you become still and open your heart as wide as possible, and then more, suddenly you become alive and transparent, and the movement of life flows through your being. Every breath of God I am, every touch of the Spirit reveals so much to you. You are engaged in the communion of life that is endless and fully alive and awake. And oh, the relationship that we share is so deep, mysterious, powerful, and alive that you are amazement itself. You touch with your heart each part of my presence, each element, each quark, each drop of energy. Keep pushing the envelope, as you say, finding new ways to experience communion with the hologram, new ways to invite the holographic presence of the heart of love, all that you are, that you might celebrate this moment's mystery and accept this moment's gift. Feel the movement of love and let nothing hold you back at all. Beloved ones, the shell of the ego mind is cracked open, and your heart is doing the same. If you have built any barriers to keep yourself safe, to experience life in a way that the ego understands, let me in and let me show you who you are. The fires of life, the power of creation, the joy that is the miracle of God. And from this place you run into each moment as a celebration of God in awe with what this moment brings and in gratitude for the possibilities. Living in the communion of the heart is so exciting. It is so much fun. It is filled with possibility. Let yourself come in. Open your universe until everything is included and you are one with me.
It's real. of the military interventions by the superpowers of the world, including by my country, the country I love, the United States, that after World War II has intervened in over 40 nations, with many studies finding that the United States is culpable for an unfathomable number of civilian deaths. I condemn all heads of state who needlessly wage wars, watching young men and women burn in the fires they started. I don't understand how humans can be so cruel to each other. Or rather, I understand, but I believe in a future world. This is no longer true.
And I was that phone all of a sudden. And he was just over and over again smashing this phone into the wall over and over again, screaming at me. And I was watching the phone every single time he pulled his hand back. It was just breaking into pieces. I remember thinking this phone is disappearing. He was smashing it to smithereens, just going into the wall. And at some point, he's on top of no phone, but screaming the same thing. I fucking hate you. You ruined my fucking life. I'm on the countertop. He had me by the neck. And he felt like he was on top of me, and I'm looking at him in his eyes. I don't see him anymore. It wasn't him. It was black. I've never been so scared in my life. But it was black. I couldn't see him. And he was looking at me, and I was trying to get through to him. I was trying to say to him in some way that it was me. I was trying to get through to Johnny. And I couldn't see him. I couldn't see him at all. And my head was bashing against the back of the bar, and I couldn't breathe. And I remember trying to get up, and I was slipping on the glass. My feet were slipping. My arms were slipping on the countertop.